Happy Wednesday.
Hey,
I'm
ladies.
Jen Lormond, mom of 3 and co-owner of Tighten Your Tinkler.
I'm Christina Walsh, physical therapist, mom of 2, and co-owner of Tighten Your Tinkler. We're excited to have a special Valentine's edition of our show for you today about pain with intimacy, which we realize is a massive issue. You are not going to be feeling like celebrating any Valentine's love if you're dealing with this. But we're here to give you some hope and some strategies to help address this.
Yeah, and we're going to dive in. We know that we've talked a little bit about pain with intimacy before, but today we're really diving into the different types of pain with intimacy that many of you might be dealing with. And we are going to share a little surprise that we hope you'll be excited about at the end of this video. So be sure to watch through to the end, because we are going to give you a little announcement, a little surprise at the end.
But so pain with intimacy is not a one-size-fits-all scenario. And many of you may have had nobody to talk to about this, and you've been left wondering, is what I'm dealing with normal? Is there anything that can be done about it? And we're going to dive in and get into some of those details with you from our own personal experience and from that of all the women that we've helped and worked with over the years.
And we know this is really hard to talk about with your friends, and particularly with your husband or your partner, because we know that they don't want to hurt us, right? And so sharing these things with them can be difficult, but it's also really empowering, I think, once you have a better understanding of what's causing your pain, to be able to have that conversation with your spouse. So we do encourage you to do that as well. I'm going to grab the diagram.
Absolutely.
So the first type of pain that we're going to be talking about is really the pelvic pain that's associated with prolapse.
Specifically related to those intimate activities. And we've talked to you and shown you this image before.
Many times before.
But we love it, and it really matters when you're trying to visualize, why am I feeling this stuff inside my body?
Yeah, so do you want to hold it up and I'll do some pointing?
So this is a visual look. As imagine if I'm cut in half and you're looking from the side, right at the midline of the body. And this is one particular case of stage 2 pelvic organ prolapse. You can see up in the corner is what it looks like without prolapse.
Yep, this is normal.
And how the bladder, uterus, and the rectum are all kind of stacked nicely. And then the larger image is a stage 2 pelvic organ prolapse. And not all of those cases are the same. This is just one. And you'll notice that the bladder, the uterus, and the rectum have all fallen down into the opening between the bones, and basically falling into and a little bit through the bowl of the pelvis.
And so during intimacy, this is the vaginal canal that needs to have an open passageway, right? And so you can see with prolapse that explains why there might be some discomfort with those activities, because the normal passageway you can see up here, the yellow colored passageway, is nice and clear and open with all of the organs stacked properly up top. And this image, you can see how there is a blockage of that passageway.
Yeah, this smooth passage is not going to be easily achievable. It's a clear visual here to see the bladder and the rectum almost kind of falling into the space, and the uterus itself falling into the space that should provide that clear passage for those intimate activities. But one thing that's interesting about intimate pain with prolapse is that it may not be quite what you might think it is, or maybe you're having it, you haven't even really identified it yet, because it's not often localized pain. You almost look at that picture and think it would be local, very low pain with insertion.
Yes.
But that's not always the case.
Many women have described it as more pain higher up, and sometimes even talking about it as feeling stomach pain or digestive discomfort during intimate activities. And that is really due to the running into of those organs and the pressure, because when you have prolapse, there's a pressure irregularity. You've got a lot of downward pressure, and so
with the upward pressure that comes with those intimate activities, it's kind of jarring the system and what's become its kind of new normal place.
Yes.
And that's why very often it's a pain higher up in the abdomen that many women often almost wonder if they're having stomach pain.
Yes.
So don't be surprised, or maybe we're helping you, the little light bulbs to go off and go, oh my gosh, that's what that is.
Yeah, so it is definitely not local pain, although we are going to talk about local pain.
Another
See some questions
issue
coming in.
Another issue that often comes up with intimate activities with prolapse is the air entrapment that can occur in an increased frequency that you can have because of almost like a plunger suction effect with the insertion.
The downward pressure and that
upward pressure. Yeah, instead of that, again, that smooth passage, almost a little strange suction situation develops, causing some air to pocket and get stuck up in the pelvic cavity, and then it will work its way back out and make some noises that are often less than desirable during those
intimate
moments. And this is all related to pelvic organ prolapse and trying to enjoy those activities with that diagnosis. But know you're not alone, and know that there is a why behind this, and there is some help available. I think before we go into that, do you want to talk more about the different types of pain with intimacy?
So the other type of pain would be the more localized pain. And generally we see that in two different populations.
Yep.
One are women going through menopause that might be experiencing vaginal dryness, and there's a spectrum of that. Some women might only experience mild vaginal dryness, where others really have actual irritation from intimacy, skin irritation there, because there is a lot of dryness, not enough lubrication.
Very often that's combined with some organ prolapse.
Yes.
So you can imagine how you might be living, how complicated this can get, but we're trying to break down those little pieces of the puzzle and give you some solutions. We've recently been exposed through a client to some incredibly helpful, all natural antioxidant cream.
Yep, the name of it is Oxysell, and we are going to Oxysell, and we are going to drop that in the comments below. I'll put a link to that. So if you are dealing with vaginal dryness and you're a little bit nervous about trying some of the other products that might be out on the market in terms of chemicals and all of that, this is a natural product that you can try that we have a client who has had a lot of success with.
And the other localized pain that can be a real big issue is over tightening of the pelvic floor muscles themselves. That can be from any number of things. It can be from too much Kegling. It can be from the accumulation of a pain and fear response when you have had painful sex and you're approaching that encounter with your partner. Your muscles remember that, and your body remembers that. So it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy of tightness. Your body clamps down and almost makes it worse subconsciously. You can have over tightening of the pelvic bowl through lots of factors and situations, but that can be one of the causes of localized pain with intimacy.
Yeah, and I do want to add a caveat. I think many women who are dealing with the bowel and bladder symptoms, bladder specifically, with good intent, are advised to use devices that you insert, that there's an app, that maybe you're practicing Kegling. And that really, I have found the women who have worked with those devices are often the ones that have the most over-tight pelvic floors.
Another word for that is hypertonic.
Yes.
Maybe you've been to some medical professional who said your pelvic floor was hypertonic. This would be you, who we're talking to now. We're going to give you some really effective stretches
to help with
that you can try to help if you fall into that over tight or hypertonic pelvic floor category. These stretches can work wonders to gently open and loosen and stretch the muscles that might be causing that localized pain with intimacy for you.
So now that we've kind of outlined the different types of pain, here's the good news. We're providing solutions to that. So we'll address the hypertonic pelvic floor first.
Two big stretches This is quick, this is easy, this is effective.
Yes.
To address an overtight or hypertonic pelvic floor.
So I'm going to have Christina come around. And you do want to have a lower seat when you're doing this stretch. So she's going to kind of sit on the corner of the box here.
And this could be a low stool in your house, so long as it's safe for you to get on and off of a low stool, of course. A low stool works best, a low seat.
Yeah, you don't want anything that's too high. So maybe you have some chairs in your house that might be a little bit lower if you're older and struggle to get up and down off the floor. But what she's going to do is she's going to take her feet nice and wide. She's going to sit up nice and tall. And as she hinges forward from her hips, she's going to press out into her knees. Let me make sure that they can see this, Chris. Yep. So she's going to just hinge forward and hold. And just a couple things, her feet are right under her knees, so her feet aren't too far out. And she's not kind of pushing her ribs forward or anything. She's got a nice stack so that she's just hinging forward from her hips. You know you're doing this right, and if you have a hypertonic pelvic bowl, I can assure you, you're going to feel this very quickly as you hinge forward. If you start feeling discomfort at the front of the pelvis and that pubic joint, back off. You're being too aggressive with that stretch.
Yep, but that is where you should feel it. A nice kind of, imagine a deep groin stretch.
Yep.
And it's going to pull into the over tight pelvic floor very nicely. But again, take it gently, and that's the key.
Yep, and so just holding that for 20 to 30 seconds, you can do that multiple times a day, paired with the next stretch that we're going to teach you, which is a kneeling stretch. So if you couldn't get on the floor, you could do this with a foot elevated and holding on to something if you needed to do that. But Christina's going to show you the kneeling one. I do think this is the most effective one. She's going to bring her foot forward and turn her toe slightly out. And then she's going to hinge forward from her hip. So she's getting front of the hip on this side and pelvic bowl there. So that sling from hip to hip, she's really getting a nice stretch. And she could hold on to something. She could bring her hand down to the floor if she needed to for more support and a deeper stretch. You just want to make sure that you're doing this at your level. But again, if you have that hypertonic pelvic bowl, you're going to feel that pretty quickly.
And even if you don't,
it still feels great.
Feels like a fantastic stretch. You can't go wrong.
Yeah, so you're going to do that on both sides for an equal amount of time. And again, make sure that you're not feeling any pain in that pubic joint. You want to back off if you are feeling that. We already gave you our strategy for the vaginal dryness. We're going to drop that link below for the Oxysell cream that you can try. That's affordable. I think it's like $50 online.
From what the feedback our client has given us, it is well worth that.
Yes.
And if you're dealing with this, you're probably willing to pay more than that for this kind of quality solution. No risk factors, no side effects. And the other thing that we are so ready to help with is the pain related to pelvic organ prolapse. If you felt like, oh my gosh, that's me, when we're talking about that, we know we can help. The program that we offer, the Women's Pelvic Recovery Program, directly addresses those concerns and will bring some amount of relief to those symptoms for you. And that's part of why we have created it. This is a huge quality of life issue, and it can dramatically affect the relationship you probably care about maybe most of all. So we want to be here to help you with that, and we know that our program addresses those issues.
And so the surprise is we have a flash sale going on. We got some great press coverage earlier this week, and we reopened the cart, and it will be open through Friday. So if you've kind of been on the fence and this is speaking to you and you're looking for a strategy to begin implementing now, you can head over to tightenyourtinkler.com and purchase your program through Friday of this week. So that's it. If you have questions pertaining to pelvic pain with intimacy, we would love for you to private message those to us, either on Facebook or Instagram. If you want more information like this, we would love for you to head over to our website and sign up for our newsletter. We send a weekly newsletter each week outlining all of this information. And if you have any show topics that you'd like for us to cover.
Something that you've been dying to ask your doctor or a friend and just been a little nervous about or not sure how to bring it up. We are here to address the hard stuff for you.
So drop that below, or again, private message us. Our mission is really a big one. We're looking to empower women to feel better in their body, to take back control of their body again, and we want this care accessible to all women. So we will see you next week.